The Elemental Masters can fall into two categories, some of them being some of the best characters in the show, while some of them are some of the worst. And before we get into it, I just wanted to say that in this list I won't be including any of the ninja, because they would all obviously just be at the top of this list. So with that out of the way, let's start at the very bottom of the list. So in last, I've put a tie of 4 different characters: the Elemental Master of Surface Tension, the Elemental Master of Size, the Elemental Master of Figment, and Kizzy, who is the Elemental Master of Balance. And I only know that is her name because I looked at the Ninjago wiki to make sure I wasn't going to miss any characters. So the reason they are all tied at the bottom is because they are all irrelevant. I think the only one that may have talked was Kizzy, but I would have totally forgotten about her if she didn't have that fight with Sora. Also, what sort of element is balance? And while on the topic of elements, surface tension is easily the most stupid one of them all. And what even is Figment? In fact, the only one from the script that I don't absolutely hate is Size, because it reminds me of Ant-Man, and I like Ant-Man. So in second last, I have Gravis, the Master of Gravity. The only thing I remember about this guy is his fight with Griffin Turner in Season 4. And in 19th, I put Ash. And just like Gravis, the only thing I remember about him was his fight with Kai, and he also never spoke a single word if I'm not mistaken. And for 18th, I have Belobo, and I just want to say that if it wasn't for this scene he had with Jay, I would have put him behind Ash and Gravis on this list. And in 17th, I have Camille, because her elemental power of form is pretty cool, but her personality really drags her down because she kind of lacks one. Since she was only really relevant during her fight with Lloyd in the original tournament, for the 16th spot, I decided to put Mr. Pale. The only interesting thing about him is that he still shaves his face even though he is invisible. And for 15th, I have Tox. I mean, her design is pretty decent, but poison is just a weird element. And in 14th, I have put the most irrelevant of the Season 4 Elemental Masters, being Jacob, the Master of Sound. And in saying that, it is a bit weird that I put him this high, but sound is kind of an interesting element, even though it is pretty useless. And I also enjoyed his mini arc in the Noodle Factory, where he eventually got like fed to Klaus's snake or something. And now in 13th, I have Griffin Turner, purely because of 2 reasons. I like super speed, and he has a Spider-Man logo on his shirt. And in 12th, I had decided on Shade. Shadow is a very cool element, even though it is basically a nerfed version of the element of light. But I did feel that Shade was a pretty cool character, and one that I would have liked to see return in the Tournament of the Sources. And in 11th, I have Zeatrix. We haven't seen much of her, and I can imagine that we probably won't see too much of her for at least a little while. I did like her in the show, however, but I did feel like there were just a lot of better Elemental Masters. And in the middle of this list, I have Geo. So Geo is either really loved or hated in the community, and for me, I am somewhere in the middle. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Wildfire, because I originally felt that she wouldn't be a good character without Kai, but Dragon's Rising Season 2 showed that Wildfire can be a good character on her own. But with Geo, he obviously heavily relies on Cole, and I don't absolutely hate him and Cole together, and I'm not even talking about them as a couple, I'm just talking about just seeing them together on screen. So that does make me think that without Cole, Geo would be just completely boring on his own, and I don't think that could be proven wrong like it did with Wildfire, because Wildfire at least had a personality. Sorry Geo, but it's true. So we are moving into 9th with Xantans. Yes, the snail guy. I don't know why, I think his element is just stupid, but I just find him to be a funny character for some reason. I don't know what to tell you. And in 18th, I put Thrak. So yes, his element is a knockoff of Earth, and I also believe that he will probably join the ninja team potentially next season, and I'm not totally against that. I thought he was a pretty good character, and I think he could be quite interesting as well. And for 7th, I put Euphrasia. She hasn't been the most interesting character so far, but she has popped up quite a few times now, and I have liked her every time, and I think she has potential to be a pretty decent character. And just above her, I have put Karloff. Metal is one of the best elements because it is actually one of the only elemental powers that is actually an element. And also, how can you hate Karloff? I enjoyed both of his fights with Kai, and he was also one of my favourite parts about Season 4. But now we're in the top 5, starting with Cinder, the new Master of Smoke. I don't really know why he is this high in this list, because I haven't really loved him that much in the show so far. But this is just where he ended up when I made my order. So yeah, Cinder is in 5th. And in 4th, I have Ninjago. Again, I don't know how he ended up this high. I do think he is quite a good character, and his mind powers have come in clutch a few times as well. And in 3rd place, I put the Time Twins. And I do know how they ended up here. So if I rank them by themselves, they would be a few places lower on this list, but together, I do really like them. Their dynamic is really good, and they do crack me up sometimes as well. And time is a really cool element, even if they can't actually control it anymore. And speaking of not being able to control your elemental powers anymore, I put Moro in the 2nd spot. He is in my top 3 Ninjago villains for sure. He was just so great, and he definitely deserves his 2nd spot. But my favourite elemental master is Skylar. Her powers are so cool, and I love it with Kai, but she's still a very good character with other characters as well, as we see in Hunted. And like Karlov, she was also one of the standouts from Season 4. So that is my ranking of every elemental master. Let me know what you would change about this list. And since I didn't rank the ninja in this video, why not check out my video here where I did just that. See you later, be ninja.